Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are calling in from, and welcome to today's sessions of IPC Technology's Customer Training Webinar Series. These trainings, just as a reminder, are free to all of our customers as part of our continuing education initiatives. My name is Eric Bowling. We do record these sessions in case someone that you know is unable to participate so that you can review those at a later time. Some find it helpful to review those sessions within their organization simply as a way just to encourage better use of the technologies that in many cases our customers already have, or it's relatively easy to add to your existing Mitel system, or just to plan for potential future implementations. Today's sessions, just for the format, is going to be about 45 minutes. We'll leave some time at the Q&A at the end for Q&A. You all have joined in listen-only mode, so if you do have questions, there will be a chat section in the browser. Feel free to submit your questions along the way so you don't forget, and then at the end we'll review and answer those questions as best we can. And then if we also need to schedule any personal follow-ups, we can do that as needed. So, moving forward, today's session, Better Insights. So today we're going to discuss the Brightmetrics analytics solution that is available for the MiVoice Connect system. It is an advanced data application with the ability to report with some better dashboard look and feel to the MiVoice Connect platform, gives you some custom report development capabilities as well. And so it takes the existing data and just provides you a much cleaner interface for getting to the data that you need to drive your business analytics. And so I am just the MC, the star of the show is Simon, and he is going to take over here. Let me switch over. We're going to change to Simon, and he'll continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Eric. I'm pulling up my screen right now, so in a moment here you should be able to see just the Brightmetrics application here. And right now everybody should be able to see the Brightmetrics portal. This is the original Brightmetrics portal. For those of you already familiar with the platform, you may already know that Brightmetrics is coming out with a new Radiance UI. It basically contains all the same information just in a new user interface. So no real changes, especially if you're already familiar with using the product and you're just here for a refresher. The new UI just looks cleaner, makes it much easier to find what you're looking for, but contains all the same great features. Today I'm happy to be showing you IPC's demo instance of Brightmetrics. Brightmetrics is the premier reporting solution for MiVoice Connect, offering powerful historical reporting and real-time dashboards. Mitel actually uses this very solution for their own MiVoice Connect production system, if that tells you anything. Not only does Brightmetrics offer the detailed call data in an easy-to-understand format, but it also includes useful administration and troubleshooting tools for system administrators or company decision makers. One of my favorite tools is the call flow reporting feature, which automatically maps out any call flow in a clean diagram. That diagram can be then downloaded in several different formats. So from the main window here, we'll navigate over to call flow reporting. And once the call flow reporting tool loads, you can select where you'd like the call flow map to start. It defaults to menu. These are a list of auto attendants that IPC has listed in or configured in their demo instance. You're not always going to want to pick an auto attendant as your starting point. Sometimes you're going to want to start with a work group, a hunt group, sometimes even a route point, or even a dialed number from the very first point that you'd be joining. Right now I'm going to choose IPC's main auto attendant menu. And it does generate in a new tab. And so you can see here it in a very clean way, very colorized, so it kind of calls out exactly where each call flow is routing to. We can see the call enters the IPC main menu, and by option, it can route to several different locations. The nice thing about this is it kind of goes all the way to the end of every call flow from that possible call flow from that starting point. So from the IPC menu, we can see that if you select option 1, it'll go to a work group, and from that work group, depending on what the status of it is, it'll either go to an external number or to work group members. Same thing for an additional menu option, and it'll map that out all the way to the end. If you have ECC deployed in your system, known now as Connect Contact Center, you do need the ECC or Connect Contact Center module enabled and deployed on your system. When that's deployed on your system, these call flows will not only map your PBX call flows, the MiVoice Connect core UC call flows, but it will also extend that call flow mapping into your call center call flows. A really nice feature that looks no different. Basically, right here, if this was the end of your core phone system route and it jumped into ECC, it'd be all the same diagram.
Yeah, we find our customers, Simon, real quick, we just find our customers that are dynamic in building out different menu structures and different programs for their customers. Having that graphical view really does help them to plan appropriately, just to make sure they're streamlining the communication path for their customers. And so it's a very powerful tool for folks who are a little bit more dynamic, needing to document what it does today and the changes they want to make in their organization. So very, very powerful tool. The graphical nature of it gives you just a really clear picture of what happens when the phone rings, right?
Absolutely. That's a great point, Eric. One of the difficult things that I find trying to explain in my job is complex call flows to another person. This is really where this call routing diagram feature excels. We can see here, diving a little deeper into the feature, you don't have to take the default time and date. If you want to see what happens over the weekend, you can input a different date. You can even select off hours by sliding the little time symbol. And once you have the date and time selected that you'd like to display the call flow for, you just check which call flow you're looking for. Again, we selected IPC main menu, and we hit submit, and it opens up in a new tab. Once this generates here, which you can see it generates very quickly, we have a couple options. The most popular options is we can export as PDF, or we can export as a PNG file, an image file. That's really up to you. We can even zoom in here if you want to zoom in on a part of the call flow. Very useful if you do have very large, complex call flows. The entire thing can get overwhelming very quickly. You can also select multiple call flows at the same time. When you do that and you hit submit, they all open up in a separate tab, so you can easily compare two separate call flows to each other. This is really useful. This not only enables you to clearly show someone else how the calls are currently being handled by the system, but it also makes it really easy to plan and document call flow enhancements. That way you can see where the system is at now, and you can easily discuss and reference this document to plan future call flow enhancements. Another feature I'd like to show you today is a dashboard feature. We're going to move back to that page. The dashboard feature shows summary call data, system configuration details, or even system utilization summary data in a clean graphical presentation. By default, all dashboards only display historical data. That is, unless the real-time module has been enabled for your system. Basically, the real-time module creates a real-time connection between the Brightmetrics instance up in the cloud and your internal system, and it allows the Brightmetrics system to pull that real-time reporting data and present it to you in these real-time dashboards. We can see here we can have summary call data. We can show that by inbound, outbound, even internal. Call duration by type. You see here we have this over a 30-day period. We can rebuild these dashboards over a 7-day period, as we see down at the bottom here, shorter or longer, whatever the business need or use case is. Really useful as well is the ability to create multiple dashboard tabs. This really excels in an environment where a wallboard is of use. I've seen IT departments actually build several dashboard tabs on kind of network operations center displays. That way people can quickly look up and see what the current state of the phone system is. If they see dips in call volumes or anything like that, obviously that's a quick indicator something may be amiss in the system, or they can quickly see if there's spikes in call volumes where adjustments may need to be made. Beyond system configuration, where it can show you license usage by type, we can also go a little deeper into the system summary. One of the really nice features here is trunk utilization. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, how can we see over a period of time what our max trunk utilization was? Anybody that's dealt with that question before, you'll know that there is no default report for trunk utilization. There is a detailed report that will show you every call that came into the system, but it doesn't correlate that over a period of time to show you out of my, let's say, 50 configured trunks, at this point, 30 of them were engaged. Brightmetrics offers you that display in this window here. So we can see here, out of the 50 trunks configured in the demo instance, we reached 25. 25 at one point on one day, but mostly we're averaging around 15, 10, something like that. Very useful when you're concerned that the instance may not have enough external trunks configured to address call capacity. You can also build additional dashboards by work group, by hunt groups, basically whatever the business case is on the feature in your phone system. A dashboard can be built around that to show you how that feature is being utilized or how that feature is performing. I'd like to remind everybody, please feel free to submit questions in the GoToWebinar portal. We'd be more than happy to address those questions at the end of the webinar. Once we dive into reporting here with the on-demand reporting tab on the left, we can easily see that common reporting, we can see the canned reports on the left here listed that fulfill many of the common requests from users, managers, or even administrators. This Brightmetrics solution, it is meant to be configured around your use case. So if you're more than welcome to configure managers with access to Brightmetrics, and they can build their own reports, run their own reports, even save and schedule those reports for recurring delivery. Or if it's just administrators that you want to give access to, I have worked with IT departments that want to keep this solution locked down, and then as managers need call data, they submit a ticket request, and that ticket is fulfilled that way. If any of these canned reports don't fulfill the request that you're looking for, you can build a new summary report or new detail report down here in the bottom left from scratch. What I see mostly is people start exploring the solution with the canned reports. Once you pull up a canned report, you can enter an edit mode very easily, and you can change which filters you're building into the call flow, or I'm sorry, building into the report. So we can actually select or change filters to show all data, or we can remove filters completely. Kind of has the same effect there. We can change filters if we want to show all parties, or we want to show one party, or even multiple parties. It's very quick and easy in this UI to change those filter configurations. Once we've changed the configuration of a canned report and you find that you like this configuration and you're probably going to run this on a recurring basis, you can use the Save As field or Save As option, and you can name this something else. So we can name this report User Activity Detail Custom and save that. And you can see here that it shows up under the Save Reports section. So you have your standard canned reports that Brightmetrics offers, and then you have your save reports. As an example, a common reporting request is when an outside party states that they contacted your company previously, but no record can be found of that call. The search by caller ID report can quickly pull up every call that has come from a specific number. So we can see here under the system section, search by caller ID. All you have to do is specify the date. So we can specify that today we received a report that a call came in from somebody calling with the number 804-622-7239. That's my own number in case anybody's wondering where I pulled that from. What this does is, as I mentioned, the Brightmetrics reporting solution does pull this data out of your system over an encrypted connection, formats the report, and then presents it through this portal, this administration portal. So we can see here that we have 4 calls from this number into the phone system, and that's just today. If we wanted to look back, maybe we don't find the call that we're looking for today, we can go last week or earlier this week, whatever the need is there. Again, you can save this report if you'd like to run this on a recurring basis. One of the interesting things is the search by caller ID. It can only return data that's being provided to the phone system by the carrier. This is a report showing call data from an external party. If the external party is blocking their number, or if they're sending a number different from their inbound DID or inbound direct inbound dial number, then the number they gave you may not be accurate or what's actually showing up as the calling party or the caller ID. Case in point, my number, I was calling from 7239. However, some companies like to mask their caller ID as a main 800 number. In that case, the user, they may give you a local number, but you may have to ask them, is there another number that your caller ID could be or something like that. Otherwise, another interesting thing here is if there was no caller ID on the inbound call, you can actually type in unknown. And once the report generates, it can show you every single call that came in without a caller ID. That's a little advanced. You'd likely have to know to search unknown. So if you're not sure, you can always select the all option in the filter. And when you preview that report, it's going to show you every call that came in today from every caller ID. You can see here it shows internal calls. It shows you inbound external calls. It shows you outbound external calls. If we wanted to see specific calls, such as just inbound, we can add, there's a direction filter. And I must be going blind now because...
To maybe call type?
Yes, thank you. Inbound call type. Yep, I'm going blind. I need new glasses. And we can see here that it's just filtering out all the extraneous data and only giving us the data pertinent to our request. It's showing every inbound call, either from an unknown caller ID or from a specifically labeled caller ID. If a manager would like to see instead a list of all calls addressed by a specific user, we're not going to want to use the search by caller ID report. We're going to want it to take a look at the user activity detail report. By selecting the specific user you'd like to run this on, again, I'm going to run this myself, or on myself, and preview report. It will show every call, either inbound or outbound, that was addressed by that user account. One of the things I like to call out is oftentimes one of the canned reports may have a filter or configured or present that you don't want listed on this report, in which case you just go into edit mode and you remove any of the filters that may be filtering out call records that you actually want to see. In this case, if you want to see all calls, not just calls that were answered, you can either select the answered filter to all, or you can remove it completely. We can also remove the call type or set it to all. That way, not just inbound and outbound, but also internal extension to extension calls are included. And we'll preview that report. And now we can see here extension to extension calls in addition to everything else that was addressed by that user account. Just like the previous report, you can quickly select a relative call date and time filter. This makes it really easy to change from today, showing just call records for today, this week to date. You can even do it yesterday, last month, whatever the use case is. Now, if a manager would like to see a list not of every single call that was addressed by that user account, but maybe just a performance summary for that user account, we can select the user activity summary report instead. Again, by default, just from my experience, I know I like to remove some of the filters here. And this report will actually show you for all user accounts or any specific user account you specify, how many extension to extension calls, inbound, outbound, the various call types, how many they addressed over the period of time specified, the total call time, and the average call time. So you can quickly see here they spent this amount of time on the phone, but the average time between all calls was a little less. Or between all calls, you can see their total time versus their average time for all calls. You'll notice here it does count calls into voicemail, but that can be removed in one of the filters. For administrators who are having difficulty deleting a user account because that user account is part of so many different call flows, there's actually a system configuration report labeled extension references all, which often comes in handy as it will show every call flow that call control object is a part of. So if we go down to the configuration section of reports and select extension references -all, we can select the name of someone, either typing it in, or we can select multiple. Actually, I'm going to cancel that. I prefer typing it in here and preview report. So we can see my user account in the demo system is set as the target of other users. So if I was trying to delete my user account, I would have to go into their user accounts, and there's a couple monitor extensions that my user account would have to be either removed from, or that monitor extension configuration would have to be updated to point to a new destination. Otherwise, when you try and delete that user account, the system's obviously going to see that it's already part of another call flow, and it's not going to want you to delete that. It's going to give you an error message. If you're an administrator, you've probably ran into this issue in the past where you've tried to delete something and the system will tell you can't delete this object because it's part of such and such a call flow. If you try and go through that several times, you can quickly get frustrated. This report's a great way to short circuit that frustration, and from the very beginning show you every place you have to go in the system to either change or remove that user configuration. Once you have a report that's very useful and that you'd like to run on a recurring basis, such as, I'm going to run a little report here and select myself. Let's say I want to save this report because I don't always want to go into the CAN report and update it to the configuration I actually want it to be in. Once I have it in that configuration, you can use the Save As button. And as I showed earlier, we can save a custom report, if I can spell correctly. Now that we have this report, I can go back in anytime. So let's say I was running call flow reports. I can go back into the on-demand reports, go back into save reports, and there's my saved report available in the future. Once I have a saved report, you can do some interesting things with it from there. I can give other people access to the report. So if another administrator would benefit from being able to run that report instead of having them build that themselves, they can quickly be shared access to that report. Let's say I don't want to have to go into the system every single time I want to run it. Maybe I want that report to be sent to me. Even as a reminder, if I send a report every Monday for my review at the beginning of the week on how the previous system performance was, I can go into the schedule button here next to the report and create a new schedule entry. All you have to do is list each email address you'd like the report sent to. Unlike other reporting solutions or other email connected solutions, you can list multiple emails, and all you have to do is select each email by a comma. You can select a custom subject line on that report as it's delivered. So, reminder, review every Monday. And again, typing is hard. So that subject line is going to be added to every email that's sent to me. I can also include the date on that. That way, as I receive a weekly email, let's say I have those sent into a folder, I can easily see a list of all emails in that folder with this date listed in the subject line of each email. If you're an administrator actually creating this reoccurring email delivery of a report for a user, you can actually put a message in the body of the email explaining what content that report contains. Very useful if you have a user that likes to come back and say, hey, you built this report for me, but I'm not quite sure what it's showing me. This is a great reminder and a way to reduce future tickets or requests. You can have that report sent as PDF, CSV, or Excel. I've dealt with multiple scenarios and requests where we send a CSV document that connects into another system to generate really useful metrics, let's say a CRM, that CRM has a record of every single phone call that came in correlated to customer records. We can select the time of day that the report will be delivered, time zone even. So this is really useful if you're an administrator on the East Coast, but you want to make sure the email is being delivered per the local time for a user or manager that's on the West Coast. You can easily select the time zone there. This is where we select if the report is going to be sent every day or days of the week. Maybe we want to send it every Sunday at the end of the day, or every Monday at the beginning of the day. Or we can even send it on a monthly basis, let's say the first of every month. Right here, it'll show you what period of time the reporting data is going to cover. Maybe we only want to show the call records for yesterday. So this email would be delivered every day, and it would contain call records for yesterday, showing every call being or addressed by the user account Simon. Oh, and I'll go ahead and include an email address in here for an example and show you how multiple email addresses can be included just with a comma. And now we have this saved, and the report will be delivered at midnight every single day, showing the call data records for yesterday. You can easily go back in and edit that at any time, changing any parameter of the schedule. Any changes made to the report can be made in the template itself, and that will update automatically the scheduled report. So if I go in here and I change this to instead report on Ryan, that will change the reporting metric or the reporting filter. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And if we go back into the schedule, it will show once this is delivered. Actually, the schedule itself would need to be updated to show the party name. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the question section. As I mentioned before, there is a new UI of Brightmetrics coming out, labeled or named Radiance. It is currently available for preview. I can go ahead and show you a quick preview of that right now. So again, we see all the same data. We have our dashboards in the very beginning of the screen, call summary, configuration summary that we looked at earlier, our system summary, so our peak utilization on trunk groups, things like that. We can still go into our historical reports, and we can see the standard candidate reports or any of our saved reports, just in an updated UI that's a little more targeted and user-friendly. At this time, I'm going to check back with Eric. And Eric, have we received any questions we can address at this time?
Yeah, a couple questions. One of the questions was, is this supported on the 14.2 version, which was previously ShoreTel, versus the new version Connect?
That's a great question. The answer is yes. Brightmetrics supports both ShoreTel 14.2 and MiVoice Connect. This was actually developed by somebody that needed their own reporting solution, and they developed this in-house while they were on, I believe it was actually version 12 or 11 or 10, one of the very early versions. And then it just developed into such a great product that they started licensing this out to external parties. And as I mentioned, Mitel uses this themselves inside their own production system.
Yeah, and I do know that today it is only supported on the Mitel MiVoice Connect platform, but they do have plans to cooperate with Mitel's MSA program, which is their software alliance for organizations that want to develop and co-develop applications that integrate with the Mitel platform. And I know there is a project on the board for integrating with any of our Mitel MiVoice business customers as well. That is not available at this time, though, so this is just for the MiVoice Connect customers. That would be the folks who are heritage ShoreTel in the Mitel portfolio. So, but it's coming in the other platforms at a date to be determined.
Great clarification. Eric has a lot of good information that is more up to date than what I have access to. One of the other questions that I see came in is, how is the solution licensed? Is it per device or per user? Brightmetrics licensing is actually based on which modules you have enabled, including either Core UC, which is just the core phone system. You may have Connect Contact Center, which is an additional module that may be enabled, or even real-time dashboards, which is a third module that can be enabled. All three are mix and match, with the exception of Core UC. You always need that one, so you can either layer on Connect Contact Center or ECC if you're still on 14.2, or real-time dashboards on top of that. Those are based on individual system configurations and business needs. So even if you have Connect Contact Center, your standard reporting in Connect Contact Center may be sufficient for what your business needs, but maybe you need something a little more robust for your core UC reporting solution, maybe trunk group utilization or things like that. So you can truly configure this based on what you need and nothing you don't. Licensing is also based on the size of the system, either per user for the core UC, per agent for the Connect Contact Center, or per the number of dashboards you would like to build for your system. For up-to-date pricing and licensing information, your IPC sales rep is going to be the best point of contact for you.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Simon. So let's say some of our attendees don't have this today, but they want to try it out. What does it look like to get this up and running into their environment? Is there a trial period for this? How does that generally work?
That's a great question. We've actually created demos for several of our customers that were very interested in the product that you may be today, but weren't quite ready to actually pull the trigger on a purchase order. You really wanted to see the product with your own system detail records. In which case, all you have to do is either let your IPC sales rep know, contact anybody at IPC, or simply just send an email to issuereport@ipctech.com, just requesting a demo be set up of Brightmetrics in your personal instance. We can actually set that up for a 45-day trial. of any Brightmetrics module. So you can actually see the core UC module, you can see the Connect Contact Center module, you can even see the real-time module with or showing your own data. At the end of that 45 days, there is a lockout. You won't be able to access it anymore unless a purchase order is received before that, in which case we can actually activate that demo instance for permanent and production use.
This might be a good segue into the, so we do not have a demo instance of the ECC module, so I have captured several screenshots. Simon, is this a good time to do that, or was there some other components in the portal that you wanted to cover before we switch over?
Nope, this would be great.
All righty. Okay, so this is a screenshot of a sample dashboard widget that is created for one of our customers. We've hidden the name to protect the innocent, but you can see it's a if you utilize the Enterprise Contact Center or now Connect Contact Center product, being able to view agents in their current state can be a part of that dashboard environment that Simon was showing earlier. So it would simply be an additional tab across the top, and when you click on that tab, you would have access to whatever widgets you had applied to for your contact center. So here, this is a agent status widget that shows you the current status of who's logged in, how long they've been logged in, are they in release mode, and why they're in release mode. So we got several people here who are headed out to lunch, how long they have been in these modes, the calls that they have, let me go back here, the calls that they have taken inbound and outbound associated with the contact center. So some good details on the specific agents, that real-time access. Here you have an agent who is in their wrap-up mode and have been there for about a minute. You've got someone else here down at the bottom, looks like they're speaking with their supervisor. So this is just one of the multiple dashboard widgets that you can have. Here's another sample of the capabilities of the dashboard widgets as it relates to the Enterprise Contact Center. So how many agents are logged in? I got 22 logged in. How many are idle? How many are in wrap up? How many are in release mode? Right? Maybe if I have a certain, you'll notice that this is red. So maybe I have filters on there that say, hey, if release is above 5, I would like it to change color so that it draws my attention to the dashboard. So I can very quickly at a glance with numbers and colors determine what is the health of my contact center at this present moment. And so this just gives you a nice web-based graphical interface to be able to push up on supervisor screens. Sometimes we find customers, because the way it's licensed, you can very quickly and easily push this to a screen in your contact center where you may want to display these metrics for your agents to view, just very easy to add this dashboard just about any environment, because again, it is a web-based environment, right? The number of calls that are queued, the number of calls that are outbound. So you have queued inbound calls, queued outbound calls, your average queue times, lots of good information that a contact center supervisor would need to really assess that question, how is the contact center right now? Some more historical information here as well. So for example, I have today's call counts, right? Today's date, how many have been accepted, how many have been answered, what's my callback request. A callback is an IVR feature that allows you to, if you don't want to wait in line, you can request a callback feature, so it shows how many times that has happened, how many calls have been abandoned, the percentage of calls abandoned. And so, right, if I know that my target is to maintain below a 6 or 7% call abandon rate, then I can see very quickly that I'm meeting my target service levels if that is my goal. Some call centers are higher volume than others, and so each of these percentages and the ranges that you would be looking for would be specific to your industry, to your customer base, and to your personal service levels that you have committed to your customers. So again, this is just a sample of that. Down here at the bottom, there's a nice little screen here, that marquee that rolls back and forth. Right, let's keep that average queue time down is the message there, and they're saying great job to people. So it's a rolling marquee message that allows a supervisor to send messages to his contact center. And so, right, if I'm an agent having access to this, whether it's on a screen in my contact center area, or I personally have access to this in a view-only mode, I can get those messages from my supervisor regardless of where I may be sitting. I may be in the office, I may be a remote agent working from home, and those types of things. So
this would be a good opportunity for me to call out that that little ticker there down at the bottom, that configuration can be updated by SMS. So you can configure a single cell phone number or list of cell phone numbers that have authorization to send a text message to a specific number with not only text, but also emojis and little graphical characters that can be updated in that ticker. So little stars, little smiley faces, things like that, updated on a daily basis based on what that dashboard is showing. Eric, if you could go back a slide for me. And in here, a lot of you may be telling yourselves that this looks fairly familiar or similar to Agent Manager, and you wouldn't be wrong. This is pulling the same real-time data that would be displayed in Agent Manager. The benefit here is the fact that it's so configurable from a UI perspective. So we see here that we can size different items better. One of the complaints about Agent Manager is it shows a lot of really great data, but you can't change the UI. You can't make things bigger or smaller to call attention to them. You can change their color based on thresholds in ECC, but it doesn't have a lot of flexibility in that, not the flexibility that is presented in this. And if we go back even one more slide, Eric. From an agent view, we can actually, just like Agent Manager, we can quickly click on one of these agents and change their state. So if we see an agent that's in release, maybe we see they've been in release for an hour and a half, and if you're a supervisor, you kind of yell over your queue like, hey, you're in release, and they're like, oh, I didn't realize that. Or if you know they're chronically in release when they shouldn't be, you can actually force them back into a resumed state to be available for another call. So it's very interesting that they were actually able to enhance this product to actually change the state of the system, not just view the state of the system. For that reason, there are supervisor controls where you can grant or revoke that access from specific people, since you may not want everybody to be able to have that access. As far as, again, going back to licensing and cost, the price of the system or price of the solution is based on, again, how many users or agents or dashboards you want to report on. It's not based on the number of supervisors accessing the solution, the number of administrators. You can have a 5-user system, and for some reason you can have 100 people actually launching this web portal and accessing that data if you so choose. Eric,
so that just means displaying the data around your organization there's no real cost associated with whether it's one person or 100, which is good just to be able to share this information with other members and other business units in your organization. Good point. Let's see, there was another question here. Let me see if I can frame it up here. So there seems to, there's a lot of information here. Is there a help document, or how do we get assistance when we're looking at the call reporting filters and what all those items mean? There's kind of a data dictionary that you need to understand a little bit of in order to know what types of information you're searching for. How do users get support and training and help on navigating, just defining some of those filters when they're creating their custom reports?
That's another great question. I'm actually going to take back control here and show my screen again because it's much easier to show you here. Brightmetrics, this is another place that they really excel, not only in providing a premier reporting solution and analytics solution, but also supporting that solution themselves. Customers have a couple options here. They're more than welcome to contact IPC anytime, either by phone, email, or whatever your preferred method of contact is. Or if you're one of those people that like to go find the issue or the definition or the answer themselves, this help section down in the bottom left here of my screen, my window, you can actually view help videos created by Brightmetrics. They have a help center. They also have data definitions. They host regular trainings. I believe there are weekly trainings hosted by Brightmetrics staff. Those trainings are open to anybody, whether you're a Brightmetrics customer or not. So if you have access to that training link, you can register for those trainings, or you can contact their support directly. To address Eric's question, the data definitions may be of use to where if you see let me think how to phrase that, a report metric that you're not quite sure what it's actually reporting on. So let's say call date group, full date. It'll actually give you a full description of what that information is. So if we widen this out a little bit, don't want to get it too wide for people with small screens. So we can actually see a full description of what that data metric would show. We can filter these down, so they did a really good job of separating out detailed metrics versus summary metrics, things like that. I'm a really big fan of their help center. You can actually go in here and you can type whatever you're looking for yourself. And again, it's a great way to actually find either training yourself or look at common user management issues, data definitions, installation and troubleshooting, or just basic using Brightmetrics tips and tricks. A lot of really great articles in this section. Eric, were there any other questions we could help address?
Excellent. Let's see here. I believe those are all the questions today. So, wanted to thank everyone for participating. Obviously, if you think of a question after the call, you can reach out, contact us. As Simon mentioned, if you are not sure of your account rep or email, you can always send an email to issuereport@ipctech.com. That comes into our Customer Success Center, and someone will be with you to address any questions that you may have or put you in touch with the right person to answer your question. We appreciate everybody's time today, and check back in another 2 weeks as we continue our continuing education webinar series. Will be some more exciting topics ahead of us for the remainder of the year and beyond. So thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday afternoon or morning, wherever you're calling in from. Thank you so much.